circumstance, with that sort of backdrop, is where we say, okay, let's respect the process. But if we believe something needs to be fixed, so let the process play out. Are you still prepared to look at solving a problem?
So let's identify what the problem is, and then let's solve that problem. I just don't want to get into a situation where we make the mistake of undermining a process that has been in place, attacking contracts that have been in place, and bargaining processes that are actually working in the name of undermining labor. That's where I don't want to go. But if there's a labor relations problem that needs to be solved, I'm the first to step up and say, let's do it. You know, the whole issue around arbitration that municipalities have raised. What I did when I first came into this office, we worked with the Association of Municipalities of Ontario and with the labor leaders, and the Minister of Labor has got them sitting down at the table to look at where the arbitration process is working and where it isn't. And so I'm a problem solver by nature, open to that, but I'm not ideological in terms of wanting to attack organized labor. We're just not going to go there.
And I think we would agree with you as well. I don't think we want to attack particular contracts that have been negotiated and entered into. Where our concern really is the foundation of what I think in this particular case is a carpenters union is really suggesting that the Ontario Labour Board views municipalities and school boards as construction companies for the purposes of their labor contracts. And that's, I would think that you could knock on every single door in Ontario and ask a person who is a voter, do you think a municipality or a school board is a construction company? And they'd all say no.
Sure. But I just want to go back to, let's solve the problem that exists. Let's not create problems, and so I think having a healthy respect for organized labor and the collective bargaining process really is fundamental to a lot of the good work that's been done in this province for decades, and we're going to hold with that.
We're in conversation with Ontario Premier Kathleen Wynne. You're listening to Business to Business on 570 News.
Well, moving on is something it's important to many of our business members is the deficit and the debt that the province has. And you've talked a little bit about making strategic investments, but at the same time, I think there's a budget upcoming. I'm sure we'll hear what your plan is to continue to deal with certainly the short-term deficits that this province faces, because a lot of businesses are very concerned about that, and the longer-term debt. So maybe talk a little bit about. I know you're not going to tell us, although we'd like you to break news here on the show, but you're not going to tell us what's in the budget. But give us a theme of what you're looking at in terms of deficit and debt.
Sure, and I'm happy to do that. We are committed, and we remain committed to our deficit elimination target of 2017-18. We're not moving away from that. But as I said at the top of the interview, we believe that making investments, whether it's in partnership with business, so working with businesses like Communitech, like Desh in this region, like Conestoga Meat Packers, making sure that we have the ability to support those businesses that can expand and can create new jobs. That's a very important part of our strategy right now, making sure that we can make those investments in infrastructure. So we're on target to eliminate the deficit by 2017-18, but we're not going to sacrifice those investments and the ability to invest in the short term in order to balance the budget early, for example. It's very important to us that we not strangle the economy right now if we want it to grow. And, we have businesses all the time who are connecting with the government to say, look, we think we can make this investment in technology, but we need a partner. We need a partner with the government. And so that means that there have to be dollars available in order to make those investments. We have to also continue to remove red tape. So I'm not saying that making direct investments is the only way we support business, but it's part of it, and investment in infrastructure is part of it, and I don't think we can let up on that at this moment.
All right, we're in conversation with Ontario Premier Kathleen Wynne, coming back with more right after this. This is Business to Business on 570 News.
Listening to Business, powered by Save on Energy, featuring local businesses, solutions, and success stories, connecting community through business on 570 News.
Welcome back to Business on 570 News. Joined in studio by Premier Kathleen Wynne. Greg?
Something that's really close to our heart here in the Waterloo region. Of course, Ian and I are really passionate about that. In fact, we're running a manufacturing summit coming up in May. It is really the revitalization of manufacturing in Ontario, and I think that's critically important. What we often hear, though, is politicians talking about what they can do, and they certainly support the recreation or the migrating back of good manufacturing jobs. In fact, I'm working on one right now, a computer tablet manufacturer. We're going to be bringing them back from China back here into the region. But more specifically, and maybe aside from all of the politics, what does Kathleen Wynne, the Premier of Ontario, think we should be doing in order to create an opportunity for manufacturing to come back to this community?
Well, I think there are a number of things that we need to do. I think we need to reach out to those other jurisdictions where either business has left or there are investments waiting to come to Ontario. We need to be more aggressive in those markets where we know that there's money that wants to come to Ontario, and that's what our trade strategy is about, is making sure that the Minister of Economic Development and Trade goes to those jurisdictions, gets established and understands the relationships. So that's part of it. I think the other thing is that we've created a competitive tax regime here in Ontario. We created the HST in direct response to manufacturers who were saying this will save money, allowing manufacturers to write off their capital investments early on. We've done that in harmony with the federal government. And then I think there's the reality of electricity prices, and making sure that we have programs in place that help industrial users, particularly large industrial users. And then there's the direct investment that I was talking about. And I will say quite frankly that our opposition calls some of what we have done corporate welfare. I don't buy that. I think that if we're in a competition with the globe, and there are jurisdictions, whether in the United States or in Europe or in Asia, that have money on the table, we've got to play in that same realm. So all of those things, Greg, there's not just one thing, it's all of those that we have to do.
One of the things that we know about what's left in manufacturing here is they're usually high-skilled manufacturing jobs. We're not dime a time, and we're not competing with China and India and those types of manufacturing jobs anymore. So I guess in this area, as you know, and you've talked about it, you spent a lot of time here. A community college, 2 universities. We've got all kinds of think tanks, and so education's important here. What's the role for the government? And we, there's obviously different opinions of how to do this, but skills development, making sure that the workers that may be displaced from some jobs have opportunities to skill themselves up for the jobs that are available. And specific to manufacturing, there are high-paying, well-paying jobs in food processing and some of the jobs that are coming here. So what's the balance you're trying to strike there?
So just to your first point, you're right. Advanced manufacturing is the future for Ontario. And so making sure that businesses can make the investment in technology and that they have the skilled workers that they need is very, very important, because we have to have the smartest workforce, and we have to have people who understand what the opportunities are. So the youth employment strategy, one of the things that I worry about is that young people, if they don't know about food processing or if they don't know about advanced manufacturing, what the opportunities are, then they may not think about that as a possibility. And I'm not sure that we've done a very good job over the years, quite frankly, in our education system of providing that kind of experience for young people. So our youth employment strategy right now has placed over 8,000 young people in job placements, in placements that they might not have found otherwise, to give them some exposure to what the opportunities are. So I think that kind of exposure, making sure that we teach in our schools the kind of creativity and entrepreneurship that we know we're going to need and that young people are going to need when they go into businesses. That is the work that we need to do, as well as having programs like the Second Career Program that helps people who have lost their job for whatever reason, get them back into the workforce and get them retrained. We have to work from all of those fronts.
Something that's topical, and we were just, I was away last week, but the South Korea Free Trade Agreement.
Yes.
So that's a big deal for all of Canada, but obviously it's big for Ontario. We're the economic engine still, in my mind, of the country, and auto is one of those components you're hearing a little bit about. But from our perspective, we believe in free trade. I mean, we have to. There's not that there's not people that won't be affected by it, but talk a little bit about because I know all of the provinces have been involved in this negotiation.
Absolutely.
So talk a little bit about that negotiation, and then specifically some of the areas where people have concern, like auto.
Well, let me talk about it in two ways. First of all, we believe in accessing markets and creating markets for our producers here. I had the opportunity to meet with the Ontario pork producers this morning, for example, in my role as Minister of Agriculture and Food. The food processing and producing sector is very excited about the Canada-Korea agreement because they see the opportunity for markets. The auto sector is more concerned, and so we're going to be monitoring very closely how the deal gets implemented, because we want to make sure that there is enough of a phase-in period, that there is enough of fair treatment of the auto sector vis-a-vis both the Korean market and the American market, that we are able to compete there. But overall, we are supportive of the Canada-Korea agreement. I have put a challenge out to the agri-food sector to increase jobs by increase the job rate over the next decade. And in order to do that, they're going to need new markets. And this Canada-Korea agreement will give them a new market.
Premier Wynne, a delight to talk to you. I wish we had more time, but it was so great to have you on the program. And you're on your way to the Chamber luncheon series after this, an appearance on the Gary Doyle Show. We wish we had more time, but thank you so much.
Thanks. We'll have you, and we put this offer to the rest of your colleagues when the election's called, and we know that there's a budget coming, and whether there's going to be an election or not is up to the other parties. But when that election's called, we will have an hour-long slot for you on Business to Business
absolutely.
on 570 News.
Anytime.
Anytime during the election campaign, you can come and tell us about your election platform.
All right. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Great.
You're listening to Business on 570 News.
Business to Business, powered by Save on Energy, a presentation of 570 News. Watch the live video webcast at 570news.com. We'll return with more Business to Business. What you know. It's who you know. Connecting community through business. This is Business to Business on 570 News, powered by Save on Energy.
Welcome back to Business on 570 News, powered by Save on Energy, and our spotlight sponsors, Gallagher's Travel and Cowan Insurance. Great to have them on board, gentlemen.
They're fantastic members of both our chambers, and we're certainly proud to have them support this program, because this is, we have great conversation, but we also feed valuable information to our members. But your pecking order around here, Ian McLean.
Oh, jeez.
Huh?
Well, the temporary once-a-week guys don't get the same kind of courtesy that your colleague, Mr. Doyle, gets, because we had the Premier, and they just took her right away from us. We're taping on a Tuesday, and then all of a sudden, Gary says we'd like her to be on, and so we apologize. We wanted to have her for another 5 minutes, but we do appreciate the Premier coming on, and this series has been fantastic. Another example of how our chambers, we're going to talk later in this segment about LeaderCast and our manufacturing summit, but the Cambridge Chamber and the Greater KW Chamber working together on things that are important to all of our members and for business in the region. And this series and getting firsthand from the provincial leaders about what their vision is, what they see as the issues coming forward, because they've all said, and Premier never off air, I asked her about the election. She said, "Well, the budget's going to be." So they're all saying the same thing, other than Mr. Hudak.
But what's interesting about that is, she's in a virtual dead heat, right?
Yep.
The polls will show you that, right across the table, it's just about dead heat. Wouldn't you, Ian? Now you've been around politics a lot. You've been on some pretty heavy-duty campaigns. Save and accept those days, those odd days where you're way up there in the polls. If you're the incumbent, with all the trouble that the Liberals have had in the province of Ontario, and you're still in a dead heat, wouldn't you be looking for a mandate right now?
I got to tell you that it's remarkable that they're as close as they are. And I think that's one of the reasons. all the parties. Well, the Hudak wants to go and has for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
But for the NDP and the Liberals, it's a bit of a when's the right time to
Well,
go.
I think Andrew's worried.
But
Andrew's
I
worried
agree
she
with
won't.
you that when you historically look at it, a party that's been in power as long as they have to be as close as they are.
Oh, it's amazing.
I don't think it gets any better for them right now. So if I was them, I wouldn't be surprised if they table a budget that they know will spark an election, because there's going to be the only thing that comes
Then
out
they can't be blamed
your,
for it.
in
Then
your
they can't be
11th and 12th year in office. The only stories that come out are bad stories. It's about the things you may have messed up on, and there's not likely to be too many good stories. So I think everything is lined up for a spring election, and so this series.
If you were strategizing for the Liberals, is that what?
I would write a budget that I knew the NDP couldn't support.
And the more time you can spend separating yourself from the gas plant scandal and Premier McGuinty, the more that becomes a rear view mirror sight, the better for the Premier.
I think it's difficult for her to separate herself. She was a pretty key component in that government.
I think she has. I think
it's not being talked about nearly to the extent it was, say,
but you know what?
6 months ago.
But it's like the news cycle, right? You're not going to talk about gas plants because there's going to be something else. The Auditor General's report's going to come out, or there's going to be something else. All I'm saying is that they've got a track record, and some would argue that it's a good track record, and some of it is good. Good news. The problem is that there will be things that will get reported on which are not good news stories, and so gas plants will be replaced by something else. So, anyways, I just think that this series has been important because everything that we have talked about, the three of us, when we were setting this up, is to say we think there's an election coming this spring,
for sure.
And we've heard from the NDP leader, we've heard from the PC leader, we've heard from the Premier about you can tell the differences there.
I think
there are differences.
Andrea got a vote of confidence in Niagara where she won that by-election seat. I think, from her perspective, probably she would have preferred, or her strategist would have preferred to win both of the by-elections, but, you're not going to win them all. And I think it just really shows that the province is split three ways. And I think, quite frankly, like you said, if I'm the governing party after 11 or 12 years, you know that anything you're going to be reporting on is not going to be good stuff. Now would be the time to pull the chute and say, hey, well, I got a third of the support, so let's try and build that up.
Yeah, and I think the Niagara one was, people make hay and say it's close to Hudak's riding, but it's not a conservative riding. It hasn't been since the early 90s, and
it was a Liberal loss.
It was a Liberal loss. Yeah. The Tories had held it during the Harris days, and so but it's a mixed bag. The Thornhill was not a riding the NDP were going to win. But those are usually telltale signs that people can vote against the government without defeating a government. So, but the bottom line is this series, I think, for our members and for people in this region, I think has given some clarity to what people believe in and what they're prepared to work on and what they're not for each of the parties. And I think that's going to be very important because. The Premier said, and they've all said a version of this is going to be an important election. I guess you say that every time there's an election, but there are important decisions to be made. And it is about how we deal with deficits and debt, how we deal with the investments in infrastructure, which we still want, and still maintain a tax rate or a tax system that's going to create jobs and have business invest. And there's lots of ways to get there. Yeah. And I think the public deserves, and our members deserve, to hear what those visions are and have a real clarity about it. And that's why this series has been important for us, and we're going to do all candidate sessions when the election's on.
And if it wasn't for Gary Doyle, we'd have had the whole hour.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not going to let that go.
We're holding him personally responsible for this, and there will be, just Gary, if you're listening, there will be retribution will happen.
Absolutely.
So, but a couple of the other things that we're working on, I think we'll come to LeaderCast in the summit, but I think it's really important, the South Korean Free Trade Agreement, and when you put that together with the European Free Trade Agreement, is huge for the country. And I think sometimes people locally, like in our area, may not kind of see those opportunities of what it means for local business. And so for our members in the small and medium-sized business, huge opportunities coming up from both of these deals. And this is what we've been talking about. We have to get the message out about get prepared. Here's how to take advantage of the programs and services that the governments offer, both provincially and federally, to help business going into the global marketplace.
I think what's really interesting is how Canada has managed to wiggle its way in ahead of the United States on everything. and really is demonstrating a leadership role in global trade. And I think that's really, really good. I know we're still behind some of the other countries that have free trade agreements all over the place, but I think this is a monumental step. The only caution that I heard from one of my members, and I won't mention who they are, but they're in the energy industry, there is some concern because there is quite an abundance of competition in their particular field over in South Korea. However, you know, all of these trade agreements restructure how things are done in those countries as well. You know, Europe's going through it as well, and how are they going to deal, you know, with Canadian infrastructure needs and Canadian business needs? But I think all in all, you absolutely have to look at a free trade agreement as being a positive.
Greg, when you said you heard from one of your members who had a concern about the agreement, I thought you were going to mention that he might be in the auto industry.
No, actually not in the auto industry.
No, but there have been a lot of complaints, as you know, from the North American automakers about this.
Do you know the difference between the automobile companies, though, is really they have a lot of power in finances, and quite frankly, they'll just locate in a country. If you look at the Corolla, for example, which is really, you know, it's a Japanese car, but it's built in Cambridge. But the Corolla has a higher percentage of North American manufactured parts in it than any other vehicle manufactured.
No, I'm talking more about the concern about tariffs.
Well, but I think they don't care about tariffs necessarily because they just move. If they want to capture an audience, they're just going to move over here and manufacture.
And I think one of the things with these free trade agreements, and we heard about this with the European deal, and say dairy and cheesemakers are concerned. There's always going to be, to some extent, there's winners and losers in when you get into the fine detail. The fact of the matter is, though, you talked about the U.S. The reason we're able to sign deals and they're not is because we actually have a political system that allows for political leaders to negotiate deals and be able to get them through. And as I said to the Premier, each of the provinces has had a representative all the way along with the South Korean Free Trade Agreement, with the European Free Trade Agreement. So they're trying to protect those interests. But in order to open up a huge marketplace, South Korea, European Union, the EU, and 500 million people, you cannot protect everything. That's the whole nature of free trade, is protection. And you know what I think, what I'm always confident about is Canadian business is innovative, entrepreneurial, and they'll find a way to make it work. And if we have a bigger playing field or bigger audience to sell to, I think we're going to reap the benefits. It was absolutely proven, notwithstanding the far left who still say that the North American free trade and the U.S. free trade agreement were not good things. Everyone knows that they have been. They have increased the wealth in this country. Yeah,
there's no question about it. I think as well, you know, a really good comparison is taking your downtown boutique store and moving it out to the mall. You know, you all of a sudden increase your traffic without any additional costs. So, you know, that's really what free trade is all about from Canada's perspective. You know, from Europe's perspective, it's maybe a little bit different. There's only 35 million people here. However, 35 million more people than they had before. But I think from Canada's perspective, you know, we're this 35 million person country, and we're jumping into a pool of 500 million new consumers. And I think any business, I don't care whether you make cheese or what you make, I think you got to look at that and saying that's a bigger marketplace for me. It's got to be better for me.
I know you pushed the Premier earlier in our discussion with her on the Fair and Open Tendering Act, and you know you've pushed that agenda for quite some time on the program. What else are you hoping? What are you hoping to see from the Ontario government in the budget? What are you looking for besides some kind of open-mindedness regarding fair and open tendering?
What do I want to see, or what do I expect to see? Because what I expect to see is very little. Because if she's trying to hang on to the reins, there's going to be very little in there for anyone to complain about. But what I'd like to see, I think I go back a couple of years ago when Ian and I were fighting down at the Ontario Chamber AGM about having a ministry dedicated, to advanced manufacturing. You know what? And I guess if we had more time, if Gary Doyle hadn't stole us from us, I guess we could have probably opened that can.
Gary's not on the Christmas card list.
We could have opened that can up a little bit more, Ian, and talked more about, it's okay to talk the talk, but you gotta walk the talk.
Well, and I think we've put this in. We've told Minister Malloy and others in the Premier's office. So A ministry proper of having more bureaucrats, not needed, but we need one minister that's responsible. Much in the way that the Premier's taken on the agriculture portfolio herself and said, you know that the Premier's listening when the Minister of Agriculture is listening, right? That was
Absolutely.
a joke. He's a little slow this morning. Holy cow. But, having somebody that's responsible for saying, how do we encourage that manufacturing to come home? And because right now it's Minister of Economic Development, it could be the Minister of Agriculture, it could be the
Minister of Revenue.
There's all kinds of different people associated to that. And I think it's important because manufacturing is a huge growth opportunity, because leveraging the new technologies that come out of places like Communitech and all the new advanced softwares and technologies to become more efficient and productive is a great opportunity for this area in particular. But we need somebody, when you're talking to the provincial government, that can actually take and say, get through the complexity of Queen's Park. So.
Yep.
You're listening to Business on 570 News, powered by Save On Energy, and our spotlight sponsors Gallagher's Travel and Cowan Insurance. So you're pretty much expecting to see an election in the spring.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm with you. What we'd like to see is probably a hodgepodge of things that a little bit would appeal to each of the parties, which of course will never happen.
I think we'd like to see an election in the spring.
Well, I think it will. I think you're going to see an election. I think you'll see that the Liberals have signaled pretty much where they're going. Deficits in the midterm. They're going to make some more investments. They're going to the one that I think is where you're going to see that they'll lose the NDP is they'll have new what they call revenue tools. Although the Premier took some of those off the table, but not all of them, in terms of being able to pay for transit investments.
Yep.
So I think you'll find they're going to make those investments, and they're going to say, here's how we're going to pay for them, and it's not going to be personal tax increases or tax on business, but they'll find some new taxes that the NDP have drawn the line in the sand, saying no new taxes on middle class Ontarians, and that's where I think the split will be, and so I think then you're into an election of saying, what do the three parties stand for, and there'll be some clear divisions on what the parties stand for.
I'm not a big fan of minority government, so I just hope we come out the other.
I do. A majority, absolutely.
All right, we're going to come back with more as Business to Business continues on 570 News. We're going to hook up with our good friend John Finch from Kitchener-Wilmot Hydro to talk about Save On Energy. This is Business to Business, powered by Save On Energy on 570 News.
We'll be right back with more Business to Business, powered by Save On Energy. Call in with your questions at star 570, 570-2545 or 1-800-570-5715. Waterloo Region. And when businesses support each other, they support the community. Now back to Business, powered by Save On Energy on 570 News.
Welcome back to Business on 570 News. It is powered by Save On Energy, and we are delighted to have with us John Finch of Kitchener-Wilmot Hydro to talk more about Save On Energy.
One of the things that we partner on together is not only this radio program, but we partner together on something called the Energy and Environment Forum, and have for quite some time. Last year, we were pleased to have Jim Prentice, the minister or former Minister of Environment, now with the Vice Chair of CIBC. This year, we're starting the planning process, and that'll be sometime in May, June. But one of the partners that we have collectively with Save On Energy and the Chamber is Sustainable Waterloo. So talk a little bit about what Sustainable Waterloo is, why you partner with them, and the synergies around getting the message out to business.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in the region. I think the energy and environment is a great event to pull these different groups together, because we're all doing similar things and we're all trying to work with the customer to try to help them, like you said, control their energy costs. So Sustainable Waterloo Region has been a great partner for us over the last couple of years. Mike Morris at Sustainable Waterloo Region works with businesses to create targets and a commitment
for carbon reduction.
There's a commitment. It's a commitment-based structure, and really gets the customer involved. It gets them thinking about a lot of different aspects that they traditionally had not thought of. So,
and I know you're a I think what they call them is a sustaining partner or something. And our chamber, actually, after a number of years, and we've been supportive of it, but we wanted to make sure that if we joined and made that commitment that we would have the capacity to do so. So we've joined and now have a partnership. But I think is there 40 or 50 businesses that have now signed on to varying degrees around the Sustainable Waterloo concept?
Yeah, I would have to check actually where that number is right now with the organization. I think it's up there, though. I think they surpassed. I do know that every year they continue to bring on new members, and it's a great operation. It gets everyone together, and I think that's one of the
power of coming together. Yeah,
and you learn from other businesses. So if you're an office space and that's your facility, then there are other office customers in that sector, yeah, and
manufacturers, and there are
right. So you can they can talk to each other, and they have similar issues and similar solutions that ultimately get them all to the same place. And so it's been very valuable to have partnered with that group. And again, our incentives that we offer through the electric utilities helps those customers
achieve their targets.
That's right. Yeah. So it's a win-win for both sides, and we really there's a lot for the customer to understand, and both Sustainable Waterloo Region and the utilities are there to help customers and help them create those plans.
Well, Save on Energy and our local utilities have always been leaders in energy reduction and sort of the environmental side of things. And Sustainable Waterloo is something that Mike started up as a university project and has grown it. They've actually now, Mike has moved on and is creating this, taking this and trying to make it a national program, which is, that's the type of leading edge, world class type of innovation that happens from the region. And he would say he's been supported in large extent by the business community and Save on Energy. So that's great news. So. Anyways, that's an important event. We'll be giving you more details. Maybe we'll have you back on as a guest, not just as a spotlight sponsor, to talk about the event once we finalize our speakers and get that the program set.
Right. Thanks, John Finch of KW Hydro, our guest, as we promote Save on Energy right here on 570 News. Always great to talk to John and Save on Energy. All right, looking ahead, gentlemen, what have you guys got at your respective chambers coming?
Well, we're hard at work. We've I know you've got your gal.
Now that Ian's back from holidays,
I did tell you, we have to annex part of the southern part of Florida to Canada. In the event, we're hard at work with the Cambridge Chamber, the Centre for Family Business, the Manufacturing Innovation Network, and Excellence in Manufacturing Consortium, the 5 community partners putting on our manufacturing summit on May the 1st. And we've got a great lineup. Jim Thorne from Marsan Foods, which is a $500 million food processing company here in Ontario. And we've got some great speakers. We've got Jason Myers, and we've
had him on the show.
Had him on the show, and he's going to do the keynote and sort of give the overview of manufacturing across the country and what's coming forward. So that should be interesting, especially with Korean Free Trade Agreement. So that'll be fascinating.
This is a great day for SMEs to just come and network and meet other people. You never know who you're going to meet that you can maybe do business with.
Well, we're expecting 450 people in total. We've already got 88 registered, which is pretty good, and a lot of those are manufacturers. So we're really encouraging manufacturers to come out as a value added. And we should talk about this in the next show. Is Christy Hyphen. In fact, we should have Mark Barfoot on come and talk about what Christy Hyphen does, which is a really amazing prototyping facility at Christy Digital. That manufacturers in particular can use 3D printing and low-cost prototyping for any improvements they want in their lines or in different products they have.
By the way, when you register for the summit on either one of our websites, you can also choose to go on a free tour.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. There's a free tour. You register, you're able to go on this. And I've been on it 4 or 5 times. It's absolutely fascinating, and it's well worth it for a manufacturer because there's opportunities to, in a very cost-effective manner, improve their line. So
takes Ian 4 or 5 times for it to sink in.
Yeah.
Anyway,
right,
and
Greg,
on May
on
May the 9th, it's not in Cambridge. It's actually at Bingham's. It's again another joint program
with the Cambridge Chamber.
No, we're May the 9th is a very important day for the Greater KW Chamber and the Cambridge Chamber. We've got our leader cast. Motivational, inspirational day. Come out and hear great speakers.
Team building.
This is a great day because Malcolm Gladwell, local
author,
boy, made good.
Of Outliers fame, yeah.
Of Outliers fame, absolutely. And there's another guy that's on. There's a lot of big names. Actually, Laura Bush, Andy Stanley, Desmond Tutu. But there's one guy that's really great, Simon Sinek. He's a psychologist. He talks about how the brain works and how you can work with other people to understand what they're thinking when you're doing business with them.
I still don't understand what you're thinking.
It's absolutely amazing. You know what, Glenn? If you come, you'll actually be able to sit here on Sundays when we do this show. You'll be able to look at Ian and dissect his brain and figure out actually what's going on.
No one has ever been able to do that to this point.
It's absolutely amazing.
Oh,
no, LeaderCast on May the 9th is going to be great.
Yeah.
It's a full day. It's cheap. It's like $100.
$100.
You get lunch, all your coffee breaks.
And you know what? We're partnering with you guys on this. We've got some very special sponsors who are inviting. I think we're going to have 2 kids from each of the high schools to participate. So it's a great day. We'll have 450 people. So get your tickets.
We're going to talk a lot more about LeaderCast going forward. We've heard a lot about it on the show prior to today's edition of the program. Gentlemen, time has flown by. Thanks again, Ian McLean, Greg Durocher. Go to their websites for more. It's greaterkwchamber.com, cambridgechamber.com. You've been listening to Business on 570 News.